might look like or not look like. If someone came up to you and said, on a scale of 1 to 5, how prepared do you think you are? That's not a good measure. And it's equivalent to you going and getting your annual checkup this year with your doctor and having your doctor walk in with a clipboard and a questionnaire and saying, on a scale of 1 to 5, how much cancer do you think you have? What would you think of that approach to medicine? Probably not much. That's what I think of the same approach in reference to the study of human behavior. And recommendations for practice are never made based on one set of findings. The findings need to be replicated and tested many times. Now, here's a summary of the research findings. If you read all 350 of those documents, here's what you'd see. By the way, I should tell you that all these lessons were learned piecemeal, and we really lacked, at one point in time, clear evidence about what was most important and what was least important. First, we've known, and you can find in the research record, that the information people get about preparedness influences their behavior. Second, people have discovered, particularly me, that information they observe, if they see their friends preparing, that influences their behavior. Third is statuses. We can choke a horse with the findings in this category. People of certain incomes, educations, occupational prestige, age, races, gender, ethnicity, etc. correlate with whether people get ready or not. The roles people are in, if you have children and you have a family and you're responsible for other people, that makes you sometimes more inclined to get ready. Your experience. If you've experienced something, you're more inclined to get prepared than if you haven't. Whether you believe the information that's being received, the knowledge that you have in your head, your perceived risk. If you perceive no risk, people have concluded you're not likely to get ready. If you perceive that the actions you might take to prepare enhances your ability to deal with an event should one occur. And last, milling, and milling really influences all human behavior. Nobody does anything until they check it out with other people. That's basically what that means. And you see what your neighbors and others are doing. Now, what was missing in all that soup is clear knowledge about what's most important and what isn't. And in essence, the fundamental process whereby information received is actually converted by the human beings who live in America into sound preparedness actions. In other words, if you put all those variables in those balloons, which I did, we didn't know what came first, what came second, what was a big balloon, what was a little balloon, what balloon had no air in it at all, and how they strung together to form social process. But now we know. Did you get what I just said? We know. The Department of Homeland Security funded what I'm calling a mega study. It was completed in the year 2008, and in the world of social science research, this was the Manhattan Project, to find out what it takes to get Americans to prepare. Of course, DHS was interested in terrorism, but you can't study preparedness without studying preparedness for any reason, which is what we did. The findings are impeccable. They're clear, they're consistent, and they're replicated, and they're applications ready. That is, they give us confident pathways to enhance public preparedness. Now, before I tell you the findings, let me tell you something about you, and maybe the person you're sitting next to. Human beings are the most peculiar animals on our planet. If you put a rat in front of a maze, and the maze had 12 tunnels, and there was cheese at the end of one tunnel, the rat would go down one of the tunnels, find no cheese, and come back out. Then he'd go down a different tunnel, looking for the cheese, and come back out. If human beings were put in front of that maze, they'd go down a tunnel, find no cheese, come back out, and then go back down the same tunnel. And they'd be saying things like this as they did: there should be cheese down that tunnel. I'm used to that tunnel. It's in my job description. That's the one I'm going to go down. I like that tunnel. I'm comfortable in that tunnel. So watch yourself thinking that as I explore with you what our findings were. Here's the mega study. We studied the entire population of the United States of America. Do you get how big that sample is? Do you have any idea how much it costs to do that? That's not cheap. Social scientists rarely are able to do that. In addition to that, we oversampled New York City, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles so we could deal with that data as if they were unique. And we oversampled different racial and ethnic groups, whites, Hispanics, African Americans, Asians, and Pacific Islanders, and other. We correlated all those factors I talked to you about a little bit ago with all the preparedness actions I talked to you about a little bit ago. Guess what we found? Absolutely the same thing everyone else has ever found. We have established that men and women are different. Again, gender does impact preparedness. Found the identical findings. So all those balloons should be in the literature. However, here's what we did next. We modeled the social process. Our goal was to identify key factors and processes that motivate the public to take preparedness actions. Our approach was to begin with examining all the factors that have ever been found to correlate with public action taking, to use an analysis approach informed by theory. And this is where we begin acting like scientists rather than pollsters. Not that there's anything wrong with pollsters, they're just not taking this kind of approach. And our goal was to end up with a short list of key factors and how they relate to form human process. We constructed models. That's what a social scientific model looks like. We call that a saturated model. All the different variables that anyone ever found or put in the model, all the different relationships that could come in a sequence of causal paths are in there. And we estimated the model using statistics. In case you wanted to know what social science looks like, that's it. You really have to be into statistics. And from those things, we can conclude what really matters and what doesn't. Among all the factors that we found, which replicated what everyone else ever found about what correlates with human behavior. Now, we had breakthrough results. First of all, our findings were consistent. So listen to this. We had the same findings for all groups. That would be the country as a whole, as well as Hispanics, as well as African Americans, as well as Asian and Pacific Islanders, Anglos, and other. We also had the same findings for the country as a whole, but also in New York City, in Los Angeles, and in Washington, D.C. We did this study 9 times, and we reached the same results. Additionally, our findings were strong. We explained as much of the variance, that means being able to predict human behavior, as is possible in the social and behavioral sciences, and that's around 40%. If you're an engineer, you wouldn't be happy with 40%, but for a social scientist, that's as good as it gets. Now, our findings can be summarized in one slide.